I just came back online. Let me go, and you tagged me, right?
Yes, I sent it to you through Twitter, and I sent it to you last night on Telegram. So please share it. Okay. Hey guys, we are live. While Noah starts sharing it, I'm just going to read you guys a Bible verse that I feel is related to the topic of today. Proverbs chapter 29, verses 8 to, I'll figure it out when I read it. Scornful men bring a city into a snare, but wise men turn away wrath. If a wise man contendeth with a foolish man, whether he rage or laugh, there is no rest. The bloodthirsty hate the upright, but the just seek his soul. A fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it in till afterwards. So that's verses 8 to 11 for those who are interested. I have today two very different men, but two very interesting men who both have, I think, the same kind of role in where they read people. So Jesse Bell, for those who don't know who he is, has been an online friend of mine recently. I don't actually know the history of what you know regarding me and my channel, but so Jesse Bell.
For about a year.
Sorry?
Been following you for about a year.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, so Jesse Bell has been following me for about a year. He's a military man, and so he has an understanding of different types of men and how males how they function. And we have returning guests, a frequent guest, Noah Revoy. I was recently on his channel for a different discussion, so it's good to have you back. Hello, Noah Revoy.
Hello, nice to be here.
I'm so proud. I'm so thrilled that you are here. But okay, so let's go. The topic of today, I actually forgot what I wrote, but the topic of today is essentially the different categories of men. I sort of tweaked it because it was going to be just that, but I feel like because of the current, I'm going to say Rona, because of the current Rona and all the restrictions around the Rona, I feel like we need to really understand the psychology of the man, of the male, and whether women today can actually rely on the current state of the male. And so I find that to be super important. And so I thought I'd bring on a military man and a man who understands male-female dynamics. And so what we know today is alpha, beta, gamma, delta. Is there a sorry? Someone take over. Someone take over.
I think a good place to start the discussion is
something
that a lot of people aren't familiar with. So I know, Jesse, you'll be familiar with it from the military, and I am from male groups that I've belonged to or led, is that men, we have a hierarchy. We're not a flat group. Yes. So this is something hard for women and for effeminate men to understand, because they will get together in a group and they'll be like, what do we do? What do we do? And they'll try to seek consensus about what to do. Men don't bother with consensus on what to do. We want to know who's in charge.
Yep.
If we trust the guy in charge, we'll follow his plan, even if it seems a little crazy, and we'll punish him if he screws up. He's out of leadership position.
Well, that's what the Bible verse just said.
As long as he leads, that's no problem. As long as he leads the group to success, he will be rewarded with more and more and more loyalty. And men will follow a man they trust into death, literally. You see that in the military. The famous story of the 300 Spartans in Thermopylae is a story. They knew that they were going to die. They knew they were going to die. The question was, how many days could they hold out when they went there? And they followed him because he was their king, and they respected him.
That's exactly right. And there were blokes that I served under in the military, officers and NCOs, non-commissioned officers. I think it's the same in the American military. You call them NCOs from memory, and or non-coms. And I've served under some that I wouldn't follow into a puddle of water, and others that I would absolutely happily play sandbag and take a bullet for them any day.
Yeah,
it's exactly what you're saying. That's exactly it. Yeah.
One soldier told me, he said, I asked him about this kind of corruption and softening that a lot of the militaries have gone through. And I said, what happens if you get into actual combat? And he said, well, he says, everybody knows who's going to accidentally get shot from behind. And so, because they understand.
Noah's got a good point there, dear. Because
I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying, oh no, like that's sad.
No, I know. I get that. Noah's got a good point there, because that's one of the reasons that I trained up for Afghanistan. I did the MRE for Afghanistan in 2011, where my mate Matty Lambert and Luke Gavin, they got killed, and a number of them got wounded, etc. It's a good thing that I had to pull off the trip. There was another circumstance. I was losing my house, basically, where I had to pull off. But if I had gone over there with him, as it was, my Secco got knocked out by 2 of the diggers in that mortar section while they were over there, one time during the middle of a fire mission. I probably would have shot the cunt. Sorry, I'm trying to control my language here. I probably would have shot.
Don't be a shitty Christian.
But sorry for the noise. That's a train going past. We're right next to
it's a train. I wasn't sure. Okay.
We're right next to a train line here. But yeah, no, if I had gone over with him, I probably would have ended up shooting him with my temper. And it's a good thing I didn't go over. What Noah's saying is actually correct. And yeah, there are friendly fire deaths. If you read military history, even back in World War I, World War II, there are the incompetent, like gamma shitheads that basically got where they are by pole smoking, and it's not on merit. They're not fit for the job, and they actually got there basically by pole smoking. And if they're going to get you killed, fuck that, you kill them first.
Yeah, they haven't earned loyalty. Loyalty isn't given, it's earned. Now, if you are put into a position of responsibility, at first the men will give you some slack to let you have a chance to earn that loyalty. It needs to be earned. This is why you don't normally change commanders in the middle of an actual mission. They'll pull the entire team off and put a new team, because you can't throw a team together like that. There needs to be trust. But yeah, the what happens when you have this group is it's not just one leader and a bunch of followers. It's an entire chain of command, and men fall into this naturally. Boys fall into this. You see this with a group of boys, and the positions might surprise you because it's not based on physical size, actually. Although that is taken into consideration, because there's an overlap between psychology and physicality. Dr. Dutton talks about this. You can tell people by looking at them what their psychology is to a certain extent, or their general tendencies. But it is important to understand that we fall into a hierarchy. So when Dia says classes of men, she's not saying better,
rich,
good, less good, worse, piece of shit. Piece of garbage. She's saying that there are different roles to fill in the male hierarchy. All of the roles are honorable. All of the roles are important.
Okay, so
you're the expert here, Noah, so I'll go with you on that. But
Gamma's not in the hierarchy, so he's not fulfilling a role.
We'll get
to that.
But Jesse,
so for example,
said, go.
Right. So go ahead if you have some more to say about.
No. Please continue.
Okay. So the alphas are at most 1%. Some people say it's more like 1 out of 1,000 nowadays, but it's the people who are leaders, who are natural leaders, and they're not leaders because they stand in front of the group and say, shut up, everybody, listen to me. It actually is the other way around. Very often the leaders are reluctant to lead, and people will say, no, you're in charge. You'll get volunteered to be in charge and promoted. And it is actually a really tough job. It's the hardest job and the most stressful job, and the job most likely to kill you from stress out of the entire hierarchy, especially if you actually care.
Yep.
Is that true, Jesse?
Yeah. That's my son, yeah.
Okay, I was just double checking. I thought maybe it could have been a troll. Okay, sorry, keep going, Noah.
His name on YouTube's John Wick. Sorry, Noah. Keep going, mate. Sorry.
Sorry, Noah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's the leader actually cares for the group, and it's interesting that he does care for the members of the group, but he cares for the group as an entity more than he cares for the individual members. Yeah. And that can appear psychopathic at times when he's willing to sacrifice a member of the group for the safety of the group, but it isn't that. It's just he has that's why it's so stressful. He has to balance the things that he cares about, and the leader's the guy who the buck stops with him.
Yeah.
Is the leader the guy that works out the hardest and says I'm the best?
Not necessarily. No. Like
the leader is
military stamp. Sorry, Noah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say, sorry. Speaking from a military standpoint, The leader is not necessarily the fittest. He's not the biggest. He hasn't got the most muscles. He's not the best shot necessarily. It's the guy that can get you through without getting you fucking killed.
Yeah.
It's competence, not dominance. People often mix that one up.
Oh no, I know. I asked on purpose. I have several people in mind when I think of that. Even on that show, the Jersey Shore, there's that one guy that's always working out, and he calls himself the Situation, and he says, "I'm the king." And I'm like, no.
People like Noah, viscerally, I'm sure Noah agrees with me here, but if he doesn't, I don't know. But let me know, Noah. People like that, I want to just beat the shit out of. when I don't watch Jersey Shore.
It's garbage TV.
And we're going to explain exactly why every masculine man has that same sense, and why women find them disgusting as well. Yeah, they fit into a place not in the hierarchy, but outside of the hierarchy where we find them disgusting. So yeah, it is the alphas. They're going to take personal responsibility for the group. So there is, to some degree, it's a matter of agency. The alphas, they have a certain very high level of agency that doesn't just extend to, okay, I control my own instincts and thoughts and actions. It's I control all of this, and I take responsibility for my influence on the other people in the group. Jocko Willink had an excellent video where he talks about a mission that they went on, and somebody got killed in the mission. And if you hear the description of it, it wasn't directly his fault. It was actually the fault, more or less, of one of the Iraqis that they were working with. Made a technical error. It was an accident, and got himself and the guy who was with killed. Basically, they got targeted, I think it was, because they gave their position away by accident. Poor training on the Iraqi guy's part. And they got killed. And he says when they went in, he said they're trying to figure out, you always, afterwards, if someone gets killed on a mission, there's an investigation. Yeah, and so in the investigation, they try to figure out who's responsible. And in the end, he said, no, he says, I'm responsible because I was in charge. And the guy in the investigation said, yes, but like you weren't technically responsible. It was a true accident. He says there's no accidents. He says when you're a leader, you always take responsibility for what happened. You can't put it off to someone else.
And that's exactly right, Noah. Look, and that's something that's lacking so much in the military these days, not just the Australian military, but the American military, British military. They always pass the buck. Like with this bullshit Brereton report in Australia, where you got these guys getting put up on charges for supposed war crimes. The guys that ordered them to do it, they're nowhere to be seen. They're squeaky clean. It's these guys that are copying it for doing what
the result of that is we said that if the leaders do not lead, if they're not loyal to the bravos, to the people under them, and they don't protect their men. That's the other thing, is the alpha protects his men, and his men protect the men protect the alpha during a mission. If you're sacrificing your bravos for your own pride, or for you to escape punishment, for basically to escape your leadership role, they will punish you for it. And what'll happen in modern military is it means that men lose desire to fulfill the mission. So they're just not interested in the mission anymore. And bit by bit, you're going to see all of the good men filter out. You've already seen that in the police force. So in the UK's lost half of its police force.
Yes, it has. That's so true.
According to the men that were being interviewed, some men that were being interviewed that left, they said it's the high IQ, native British, big, strong men that are leaving, and they're being replaced by little girls and foreigners. And yeah, so basically an incompetent police force. People that can barely speak the language.
That sounds a lot like Australia. I hate to say that.
Yeah, you're correct with that one.
It's really weird. But when I was in Melbourne, Australia, maybe 3.5 to 4 years ago, Sydney Watson conducted a men's march, and at this men's march, yes, there were women cops, rows and rows and rows of them, and I'm thinking in my head, what the hell is that tiny woman going to do? I'm taller than her. What's she going to do to protect me? Like get her little club and start hitting people? Like I could do that too.
The
Like,
problem with female police is that they go right to the gun because they can't take you out physically. So they're much more likely to use lethal force because for them, everybody is a legitimate threat. If you're 6.5 feet tall and you're strong and you're a martial artist and you've been a cop for 15 years and your heart is as nails, if someone comes up to you, tries to hit you, you kind of laugh it off and grab them and cuff them and throw them in the back of a van. If you're a 5 foot woman and that happens, you pull your gun out and you empty a clip in him because like that's literally all you can do, or you get beat to death, one or the other. And
you're
so,
definitely right with that, Noah. Like even doing security, private security, I got out of that. I got into that after I got out the army.
Fair. Good job. Makes sense.
When you're facing down 30 parkies, like these 30 homeless, drug fucked, drunk, very, very aggressive people on your own or just with one other guy, like you've got to be able to do that. And a lot of these guys that you're talking about, like these, not just females, but like the really low end guys, and they think they're hard because they did, Footscray or King's Cross or whatever, and they go to water. And it makes it worse because you got to come back the next night to do your lockup on that site. And instead of 30 there, you got 50 or 60.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a relative. I have a relative who runs a halfway house, and about once a week or once every 2 weeks, he has to beat the shit out of somebody because otherwise they don't fear him anymore, and they start getting more and more disrespectful and causing more and more trouble. So he just puts on a couple of weighted gloves and figures out who is the worst problem at the moment and beats them up, and that resolves the problem. And it's this is what police have to do. This is what law enforcement have to do. They have to do this to the people that are, most people have never met the kind of scum that cops have to spend their entire day around. You did because
I have.
I was a minister, and I was assigned to work with street people. So, prostitutes and homeless people and drug addicts and all that kind of stuff.
One could argue I've been around them. Just joking.
Well, these people. I mean, there are people that are in that. Oh, how long did it take to grow the beard? I've been growing it since the beginning of the COVID lockdown.
And Daniel H., I think it's ill.
Yeah, I'm going to grow it till either I become white Taliban or or the COVID lockdown is over. It depends how frustrated I get with the lockdown.
Job, man. I couldn't get halfway to where you are in 3 fucking years.
You're a lazy testicle.
Well,
I got a head like a testicle. Yeah.
my great grandfather was Scottish, born in the Highlands of Scotland, and he had the same type of beard, but like bright red, and it came down to about his belly button. So it was like this, but just continuing. And massive beard, red beard, very Scottish. So
let's go back to topic.
Yeah. So back to the topic. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you, Jesse.
So cops, they have to, if they're going to be, and most of the cops are not alphas, they're bravos. But if you're in a position where you have to lead, you're going to have to go out and do it and take the responsibility for things in order to get loyalty from your bravos. Otherwise, you won't. And the entire societal structure, the enforcement structure that the government uses to enforce laws, because most laws are obeyed because people agree with them, not because they're enforced. I don't not kill people because I'm afraid of getting arrested. Because I know that most high IQ murderers do not get in any trouble. I don't kill people because it's the wrong thing to do. It's moral. It will bother my conscience, and it'll bother my relationship with God and with others as well. And so unless I have a damn good reason, like self-defense or something along that nature, I'm not going to be doing something like that. But there's a lot of people out there who those type of considerations don't enter into their mind. And so as the police force, as the system collapses, they're the ones that stand to a large extent between people and the crazy violence that's on the streets. Yep. 2 things are going to happen. One is that people are going to say, okay, look, I have to protect myself. And 2, the government isn't here to stop me from doing that anymore. And you get a bunch of middle-class fathers and you start threatening their livelihoods, their families, their houses. they turn into extreme radical militants.
That's exactly right. And even up in Townsville, like Townsville's nowhere near the size of Melbourne, but it's only about 200,000 people. But the crime there is absolutely ridiculous. It's youth crime capital of Australia, and that was what a lot of us did. Like even when I was a guard, what we would do at night in our off time, we actually go around and do patrols because the cops aren't allowed to do their job, and you've got these break-ins and you've got these cars being stolen and people being knifed and stabbed. Like there's one woman, her face was beaten that badly. She was beaten to death. You couldn't actually recognize her head. I saw the photos by some methed up dude coming in to get money. Like, and the shit that you see. So that's what we ended up doing. We were called vigilantes, and maybe we were, but that's what we'd actually do. We form groups and we'd actually go around and do patrols and try and chase these shitbags down. And they brought a heap of cops up from Brisbane at the time. They brought like 30 cops up from Brisbane to solve the problem. That wasn't them that did that. There was probably about 80 or 90 of us in Townsville that were going around and doing that. We'd be out in our cars patrolling every night. And we'd be on comms and, hey, we've got some shit going down here, like get here now. And that's what men do. That's what real men do.
There are small villages here. I live in Portugal, small villages where there's no police. If you phone a cop, it takes an hour to get out there. They don't even bother phoning the police because it gets in the way of finding the bodies.
Yep.
If someone if somebody robs somebody in that town, they just disappear.
Yep.
If there's any violence involved, they disappear. And they form a vigilante committee and they go get the guy and he disappears. You won't get out of town because there are mountain towns. There's one road in, one road out. They'll block the exit and entrance. And unless you can scale a mountain, you're not getting out. There are, growing up, we had that. There was a gang that was robbing and beating people. They raped a bunch of young girls. They beat a pregnant woman with a hammer. And they ended up attacking my brother and I, and we beat them so badly that most of them ended up in the hospital with broken arms and ribs. And because they just wouldn't stop. Like they were stupid. They wouldn't stop even after we hurt them. So we had to break something to get them to stop. And the cops came to us and they're like, we wish we could have done that, but we would have lost our career. They were told to charge me, but they couldn't. So the alpha leadership.
I was about to take it back to that because I'm like, we're sort of going off topic, even though we're still on topic.
Sorry,
no, that's fine. So I want people to know what the categories are. It's alpha, beta.
So the alpha, he has a bunch of lieutenants. The lieutenants are bravos. Okay. The bravos are.
Are you a bravo? No, sorry. I remember what you are. Sorry. No, I keep going.
The bravos they have high loyalty to the alpha. You'll often see in male circles, including in the military, the loyalty is more to the leader than it is even to the military itself. So, a different commander might not get the same level of respect. So they're very loyal to the alpha. They are going to punish the alpha for failure, but they're going to reward him each time with higher and higher levels of loyalty if he does a good job. They also, though, bravos are leaders as well. Bravos lead the deltas, who are the backbone of society. So alphas are about 1%, bravos about 10%, and most of the rest of men are deltas. Yeah. They're the hardworking guy, the guy who just, he wants to be told, what's the mission? What do I do? Where do I dig? Who do I shoot? Whatever it happens to be. And he likes to get things done. The alpha, he gets his dopamine by leading, by seeing the success of his group, by seeing his men come up. The bravos, they get their dopamine also partially through leading, but they also like to, they don't like the high level of responsibility of the alpha. That's a big part of the difference. They're very similar to alphas. They just don't want that level of responsibility. And the deltas, they get their dopamine from getting stuff done. When things get done, stuff done. Getting stuff done, like accomplishing their goal, whatever it happens to be. They tend to be very thing focused.
If I was a man, I'd be a delta.
More about work ethic and attaining competence.
Yes.
With what they do. So your average working Joe, like in civilian terms, just your average working Joe works his ass off at work. He's got a good reputation as a worker, but he doesn't have any ambition to lead. He doesn't want to go to management or any of that kind of stuff. He rocks up at work. He does his job. He does it very well. He takes pride in his work. He puts himself home.
Yeah, and that's okay for him. He doesn't need to take that level of responsibility. We need him. Yeah, we need him to be really, really good at his task and to work hard at it. And he needs the protection of the Bravos and the Alphas, because to a large extent, the Bravos and Alphas protect the Deltas from, he can narrow down and focus on his job. For example, in the military, if you're a sniper, you're looking down a scope, you're seeing like a 2 or 3 degree angle of view, maybe a 15 or 20, depending on your scope. You don't see what's coming up behind you. You got to have somebody behind you watching your back while you're shooting. And it's basically
that's why snipers work in pairs.
Didn't you say, Jesse, to me on the phone some time ago that a gamma is usually the guy who is a sniper? Didn't you say that?
No,
you
no,
said
no,
that they're the ones with the guns.
No. What I said was that we haven't got the Gamma and Omega yet, but so your Omega's generally a school shooter, and the Gamma's the guy whispering in his ear, telling him to do it.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
Very, very highly manipulative and whatnot. But also, I just wanted to mention quickly before Noah goes on, and so with the socio-sexual hierarchy, it's actually fractal as well. So it's your resting position. So you might be an alpha at home, but you might go to work and you might be a bit of a beta there.
Oh, I see. Yeah, of course.
Depending on what situation you're in, you'll act differently. So it's just your resting position. It's not necessarily that you're that way all the time. Sorry, Noah. Yeah, mate. I love what you're saying. Please keep.
No, I jump in anytime. Yeah. So now basically Alphas, Bravos, and Deltas are the 3 main groups, and it is interesting because if you think about it, it tracks well with the trifunctional system, which is the European system of social organization. We had the aristocracy, we had the warrior class, and we had the producers. And the ratios are about the same as the ratios of Alpha, Bravos, and Delta. This is something universal. It goes back thousands of years in European history. Yep. Now, that's the hierarchy. Outside the hierarchy are the Gammas and the Sigmas. The Gammas, the Sigmas, and the Omegas are kind of outside the hierarchy as well.
I don't know why that makes me smile. Yeah.
So the
Probably
Sigma,
because of the conversations we've had, dear, about my personal favorite, the Gamma.
And with Noah, but this whole topic makes me smile when it's Gamma down. Sorry, keep going. It's really mean that I'm smiling.
Also, just quickly, Noah, as well, I just wanted to say as well, and Noah, I don't know where you are on this, and maybe if I'm wrong, you can educate me. But as so far as I'm aware, Alpha, Beta, and Delta are largely deterministic. So a bit like IQ, personality, physical traits, largely inherited. You got like 80% inherited and maybe about 20% wiggle room. Whereas Gamma and Omega, they largely made. It's usually from childhood.
They just are.
They're largely made. Like, for example, my father was a Gamma, and by the time I hit my late teens, I was about 3/4 Gamma, and it took me a lot of work to get out of there. And they're largely kind of made. And what I am now is Sigma. It's just I just don't play the game. I'm out of the game.
I love that.
So a Gamma is basically an underminer. He decides that. And I think what it is, you're right, they're made. I think that a lot of them are damaged Bravos. So they could be in a position of some leadership, but they're going to have to follow a more competent and superior leader. They don't have the humility for that. And so they become a Gamma. They decide they're going to undermine that leader and take his position. They can't win the position through skill. They have to undermine the leader to get it. And so they will try to wiggle their way in as a leader of a group, and you can. So many
people are coming to my mind that are like that.
Yeah, a lot of cult leaders are very Gamma-ish.
Yes.
Okay? So they're not
like Jim Jones.
Yeah, we'll call them a leader because that's the word we use in English, but they're not really leading; they're manipulating. The difference is
that they're also very conflict avoidant as well. So when it comes to a fight, they're like on the back telling everyone to go forward. They're very conflict avoidant, manipulative, toxic, narcissistic, but in a fake kind of way. They know they're a piece of shit, but they won't recognize that within themselves. They'll just kind of convince themselves in their own head they're kind of cool and shit like that. Yeah.
They think they're cool. They think they're cool and they think they're attractive.
They also, someone said Gammas, ew. Yeah, exactly. Men, we have a violent reaction towards gammas. Women have a disgusted reaction towards gammas. And it's because of the dishonesty. It's because of the dishonesty. That's really what it's triggering. It's triggering our sense of, it's kind of like looking at a rotten piece of meat and you're immediately, get that away from me. Is
it possible that people think they're alphas and they're actually gammas?
Yes, that's actually one of the traits of a gamma, is that they think they're an alpha. Now, there are organizations led by gammas. Now, here's how you can tell.
Sadly.
When we talked in the initial part about the why is there a social sexual hierarchy, we talked about the structure. One thing I forgot to mention is that it exists for one purpose only, and that is to accomplish goals. That goal might be getting women, that's why it's social sexual hierarchy, but usually the goal is build something or break something or kill somebody. And that's the goals for male social hierarchies. We exist to build up the community, to protect the community, or to kill the community's enemies or threats. That might be animals, it might be people, whatever. That's why the social sexual hierarchy exists, and the greater the threat, the tighter the hierarchy forms.
Yep.
When you have a gamma at the top of a hierarchy, you'll almost always notice that that organization, that group of men, have no specific goal. They don't have a mission. And they're not really accomplishing anything. They basically get together to be a bunch of lads, which is okay. Yeah, someone asked if gamma subversive. Yes, that's exactly what they are.
That's exactly right. Yeah, they are. They're very dysfunctional, very destructive, subversive. Yeah.
Can I just say the half of the far right, the half of the far right in the US or America or UK?
Not necessarily the far right, but you can be on the right and be a subversive. What it means is instead of building, you're attempting to destroy. Now, there is a time for strategically destroying your enemies, but that undermining, that slow sapping of the enemy, that is generally a very gamma tactic.
These people, they think they're Sun Tzu, but really they're Saul Alinsky.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised how many on the right. This even happened in Germany during the Second World War. A lot of the men who joined the Nazi Party were called beefsteaks because they were communists who became fascists, and so they were red on the inside, brown on the outside, like a beefsteak. And those guys, they were actually, the Nazi Party considered them a worse problem than any of the other problems they had, because they were basically a load of gammas that had joined and they were undermining and causing trouble. So these kind of people, they have a certain mindset, and they can be on the right, they can be on the left, they can be politically unaligned, but their goal is to undermine. You'll find these in corporations as well. I'm about to start writing a book on anti-manipulation tactics, because what gammas do is they use.
Oh, good! I need to read that.
They do.
Well, my idea is to inoculate the public against manipulation.
Good.
And
I hate being manipulated. It happens to us.
Of tactics that are dishonest and manipulative. Basically, manipulation is using dishonesty to get people to do what you want at their expense.
Yes, dude. I'm a recipient of that.
Persuasion is different. Persuasion is using truth and honesty to get someone to do what you want when it's mutually beneficial. You persuade your kid to brush his teeth. Okay, you manipulate your child into brushing their teeth by telling them that if they don't brush their teeth in the night, the tooth fairy is going to come and yank all their teeth out or something. Now, you got what you wanted. The kid doesn't disobey, except now the kid has problems because he's going to be having nightmares, and he's not brushing his teeth because he wants to have teeth. He's brushing them because he's afraid. You've manipulated a situation. The outcome is the same for you, but it's a lie, and it's parasitical to the individual that's being manipulated. So the gammas, they're all about manipulation. They want to get into power through manipulation, through lies. You'll notice that they're usually very dishonest with money. They're dishonest with promises of time. They say they're going to show up, they don't show up. They don't pay back debts when they owe them. All of this kind of stuff, because they don't take any of that personal responsibility seriously. They don't have agency.
They don't have honor.
Yeah, they have no honor, and not just that, like that's exactly right with them. They're highly manipulative. The biggest thing to get out of gamma is to stop lying. That's the first stage to get out of gamma. Stop fucking lying. And yeah, that's what they do. They're just master manipulators. That's all they do, is they're just in the ears, dripping poison, dripping poison, dripping poison. They find someone that they think is weaker than them, or who's vulnerable, or who they think they can hurt. And yeah, that's exactly what they do. They're a bitchy little female in a male body, basically.
Yeah, and they will form up into a group of gammas. You'll never find a bunch of bravos. You know, if a gamma takes control of an organization, it collapses very quickly. But if a gamma is attracting people to himself, he'll attract a bunch of other gammas, and they will form their own hierarchy where he's the top gamma, and they're the following gammas. But he will trick himself, because they manipulate themselves too. He will trick himself into thinking that he's now the alpha of a team. And here's
That's exactly right. Yep.
What's your team getting done? What are they accomplishing? What are they getting done? Not I did this thing, but what was the result? What results is your team getting? You know, I lead teams where men come in and they don't know how to talk to women, and 2 years later they're happily married.
Yep.
I lead teams where you know, people come in with major psychological issues, and you know, 12 weeks later, I run them through a program teaching them agency, and they have dug all of that crap out of their system, and they're, you know, it's better than 2 or 3 years of therapy, because it's really, you know, therapy's not made for men. Therapy's not really made for white people, but yeah.
That's it, especially if you've got the Celtic blood like me. Like, I've got Irish and Scottish, and you go to a psychologist or a doctor, and you come out of there going, I did well. I didn't tell him shit. That's just like, especially Irish, but Scottish as well. Like, that's just a trait.
And the good news is you shouldn't need to tell the therapist anything, because the therapist should be teaching you processes which you can go home and do on your own.
Yep.
You know, like I don't, if you're teaching someone to be strong, I don't lift the weights for them. You know, I don't get them to tell me.
A lot of them are. Yes, they are.
I don't get them to stand there and tell me about how they want to get stronger. Tell them to go out and lift stuff, you know, and lift heavier stuff over time, so they keep getting stronger. But yeah, it's the gamma is, I would say, one of the biggest problems in society, and a big issue is we have allowed women to check men's natural instinct to beat the shit out of gammas, and therefore moderate their behavior. No, we're not trying. We don't.
I'm not one of those women. I'm a good submissive woman.
well, no. I said we have allowed women to do it. I didn't blame the women. I take personal responsibility for myself and the group. I didn't blame the woman.
Okay.
What I said was we've allowed it as men. We need.
That's the thing, Dia. Like with everything that's going on, it has been men that have allowed it to happen. So we have to take that on board, and we actually have to take responsibility.
I have a word for that. Pussies.
Yeah, we need to reinstitutionalize. We need to recreate institutionalized bullying of gammas again. You know, that is essential for the gammas. Now let's have a bit of empathy for the gammas as well. I mean, this is one of the things that alphas need to do, is have empathy also, even for the enemy, in order to understand them. So, and empathy is just understanding other people's emotions. It's not sharing them.
Yeah.
If you're a gamma, it sucks, because you're a piece of shit and you can't get better. Yeah. Like, you can't until you stop being a gamma.
You can. That's one thing I noticed, because I was 3/4 of a gamma from my father, myself. And one thing I noticed is gammas can actually get out of it themselves if they do ruthless introspection and actually have the discipline to go, right, I'm a fuck up, I'm a piece of shit, I've got to get out of this.
Yeah.
Whereas I noticed when we're going to get to the omegas, they actually need help to get out of it. Like, gammas can actually, as far as in my own experience, you've got a lot more experience than me, Noah, but I've found that gammas tend, if you have enough agency, if you actually wake up one day and go, right, I've got to stop doing what I'm doing, which I did as well. It's about 3/4 of the way to being a full-blown gamma, that you can actually get out of it. It just takes a lot of work to get out of it.
Yeah. So we got the gammas. We got the omegas. The Omegas are basically the losers of society, and they're the guys that nobody sees. They're invisible. They are in their basement playing video games all the time. Nobody sees them until they get so frustrated because they're still men.
Hey, Noah, are they in Telegram groups?
The Omegas? Actually, no, probably the Omegas aren't socializing with anyone. The Gammas,
okay. Just thought I'd ask.
Well, so the Gammas are hypersocial because their mind is structured like women, so they're hypersocial. And that masculinization of them is what fixes it. Basically what you described as a masculinization problem. And it's not a physical thing because you can look like a man and you can think like a woman. There are plenty of straight-looking gay men that think like women, but they look
Blair White. Yeah.
Well, not all of them, but yeah. So
no, Blair White is she's a trans girl. Never mind. Yeah, I think that went over your head.
Sorry, I thought you said Blair White. I didn't know you said Blair White.
No, Blair White.
Yeah, Blair White.
She's a man. She's a man that thinks like a woman.
I know who she is, and I'm not.
Okay.
But there are men that look like
actually,
men.
I'm a fan.
There are men
Noah?
There are men that look like men, that look masculine.
Yes.
That
think
still
like women.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I understood what you were saying. Yeah. I just went to
the higher levels of testosterone does help you to think like a man, but there's more to it. A lot of this is things that you have got wrong inside your programming, inside how your mind functions, and you're stuck in these loops. And to get out of the loops, like you said, Jesse, you got to do some self-examination. But the Omegas, though, they're often Gammas are often highly intelligent. That's why they can think their way out of it. Yeah. They can, although we could really help them a lot. The alphas could really help them a lot by bullying them a bit out of it. We can help them a lot, and I do think that it's our responsibility to do that. Maybe you can make an argument that it's not, but it feels like we must do that because I don't want Gammas around. So
yeah. I don't want them around my children. I don't want them around my family. I don't want them around you or
I don't even want them on the same planet as me. But
who Omegas? Who are we talking about? Gammas or Omegas?
Gammas. I don't want the Gammas
Can I present a counter argument to that, just so that I'm not coming off as such a hater towards Gammas? If they're all built, as Jesse said earlier, some just are the way they are. Yes, you can build your way out of being a Gamma, was what Jesse said a moment ago. But if one is okay, I misunderstood you then. But
no, well, I'm saying Gammas are generally made. Gammas generally
they're made. That's my point. They are how they are. So isn't there a function for them? Is it because it's not your fault you're a Gamma, right? Like my brother, for example, I shouldn't say this out loud because it's a bit mean, but my brother, for example, had my mother make his bread for many years, even into beyond his teens. Okay, so anyway, no one knows who my brother is, so it's fine. But point is, like, that would come off to someone as very Gamma. But he's a useful person. He does a lot to help around the house, blah blah blah. So is there a function for them? Why should they? Why do you guys not want them near you?
Sounds like your brother.
Sorry, what?
It sounds like your sister, not your brother. But the thing is, when I say I don't want Gammas around, like, we're past the part of society where don't like you, let's hang you up by your neck. We still need to do that with a few people because they're incorrigible. But for the majority of people, and especially for Gammas, it's not a matter of I want to get rid of them. I want to get rid of their Gamma tendencies that are in them because I want them to be productive members of society again. I want them to aid the function of the hierarchy, not undermine it.
That's exactly right, Noah. That's exactly right.
Ways to do that. You can drive them away or kill them, but then they're a constant threat when you're trying to drive them away. Or you can train them out of it.
That's
training them is the right way to do it now. Especially, we have to have some Christian compassion for people. Train them out of it.
Exactly right, Noah. And part of the reason that I got out of Gamma, I got to the battalion, and I was still about 3/4 of a Gamma, and I got the shit kicked out of me, and I couldn't go anywhere without getting into punch-ons with other diggers who are far better versed than me in the language of meat, the language of the street. And I was getting the shit kicked out of me. And that was kind of like the turnaround point, the real turnaround point. I was already on my way out. But that was one of the real turnaround points. Was I couldn't go anywhere without getting the shit kicked out of me. I couldn't go to a single boozer parade without having 3-4 guys lining up wanting to have a mad minute where you put gloves on and you got 1 minute to punch the fuck out of each other. I couldn't have that happen. I had to learn. That's how I learned, from getting my head stomped in.
Oh my gosh! So do you think that
they weren't doing that, and what they were sensing was the gamma trait in you, and they wanted to help get rid of it. And something that's exactly right. Yeah, this is hard for women and effeminate men to understand. That men help.
Effeminate man in the comment section. If you guys want to have a look.
Yeah, men help each other by beating them up. A helpless man. But that's
true.
Every exchange between males is underwritten with violence. That's just how we work. Every man has a line, you cross that line.
Today's men.
Yeah, you're right. And we're not doing this because we hate them. We're doing this because we actually care. If we hated you, we just would ignore you. That's actually the worst outcome. And you'll see this with young boys trying to get attention from their dad. If he doesn't give them attention from the positive thing to do, they right away turn to being annoying. Yep. Because they know that they can get attention. They don't care really that much how they get attention. They just want to get it. Yep. So it is important, I think, that the alphas and the bravos in society get on the gamma's case and help them to heal. Because what it is it's healing something. And I will say it's usually being raised by a single mother, but not always. It can also be having a weak father.
Yep.
Having a weak father is almost the same thing as not having a father. It's like having a big brother instead.
Or having a gamma for a father.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they just cut your nuts off, just like a lot of single mothers do, just like a lot of really toxic mothers do. They emasculate you. That's what turns you into a gamma.
Yes. Well, and I think that when alphas and bravos get emasculated, they turn into gammas. When deltas get emasculated, they turn into the omegas.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so you have, like, I've known guys like this, intelligent, maybe a little bit autistic. They do think, there are thinkers. They're trying to get something done and with their life, but society is not allowing them to have a honorable place.
No, because of feminism and the infiltration.
It used to be this idea. It's been a long time in Western culture since we've had polygamy, and what that did is it meant that everybody in the top three, it means the alphas, the bravos, and the deltas all got a woman. The alphas got the best woman. Maybe they got 2 or 3, but there was enough women still to go around. And the bravos got almost as good as the alpha, and the deltas got the ordinary women.
Yep.
So what's happening right now is the alphas are getting all the hot women, the bravos are getting what's left, and the deltas are getting nothing.
Yep.
And that's not a sustainable society. Why should the deltas work hard? Now, we need the deltas because they're the bulk of production and they're the producer class. Yep. You know, there's nothing for the bravos and alphas to defend and protect.
Yep.
If the deltas aren't creating it.
That's exactly right.
We need to look after the deltas. We need to ensure that the deltas that they're happy with their life. Otherwise, they get depressed, they get stuck, they don't move forward, they become omegas, and at a certain point, these are still productive people. These are our electrical linemen. These are our guys that understand how the city's plumbing works so that we get fresh water. These are the guys that can that drive the trucks that bring us food. And if we piss these guys off, they're going to shut society down. And
historically, what happens when you have large groups of young men who can't find a mate? You either get civil war or you get war.
Yeah.
Everything breaks down, and what we have today, like you were saying, Noah, to back up what you're saying, is a bit like Joseph Unwin in his book Sex and Culture from 34, I think it was. He was talking about in his study of 80 tribes and 6 previous civilizations, including Sumer, Rome, Greece, etc. Is what you get in the collapse stages is that you get 80%, the top 80% of women chasing the top 20% of men, and all the rest just get left hung out to dry.
I think the men should do some of the chasing. I'm sick of dropping the hanky. I think some of the men should be pursuing me, and I don't have to like drop the hanky.
That's toxic masculinity, dear. Haven't you heard about that? Trying to pick up
normally the way it works,
masculinity.
Normally the way it works is the alpha goes, hey, look, I see the delta there. He's a good dude, man. He's really producing for the company. Or, yeah, man, I saw he was been watching the wall real good. And he'll say to one of the bravos, find that guy a woman. He needs some help. Go find him a woman. The deltas don't go find their own women mostly. Look at the manorial system in Europe. You come to the Lord and you make a contract with him, and he says, you got a woman? And you're like, no. And he goes, I'll find you one. Yeah. That was his job. And which means that since he set it up, he's going to back that relationship too.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing in Japan with arranged marriage.
Yeah.
Arranged marriage.
Yeah, and arranged marriage was even at some points arranged by the lords of the manor. Now, it's arranged. You don't have to go along. If you don't like her, you don't have to marry her.
That's exactly right. You don't have to.
You don't have to. It's like, here's a woman. You like her? And she's from a good family. What do you think? And you say yes or no. The whole point is they were good at arranging it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. And this is what used to happen. And the deltas didn't have to think about that. Like I said, deltas just want to focus on their mission. They want to focus on, they're the best hole digger in the world. They're going to dig holes. They're the best, whatever. They're going to do that. And they want the rest of life to be kind of managed for them, which is perfectly fine. That's an exchange. They exchange that. The alphas and bravos, they get some benefit out of it as well. And we all get benefits.
So now, just a quick question, Noah, with that. Sorry to go off tangent, but we talked about hierarchy, not even on hierarchy, but like from what I know of you, I've been following your work for a couple of years. I first saw you on James's post.
Be careful. Be careful. They write articles about Noah. You don't want to be associated with him.
Yeah, Google.
I like Noah. Hey, Noah, so I'm a Sigma. Would you say you're a Sigma or an Alpha?
I'm definitely a group leader.
So you're an Alpha?
Yeah, I definitely. In most groups I'm in, I get promoted to Alpha whether I like it or not.
Yeah, I figured that. That happened with me a little bit. Like, even as a digger, like early on as a digger in the battalion, I'd actually get put in training roles. Like I used to do training packages for navigation, for medical, for weapons training.
So you're an Alpha, Jesse, even though you want to be a Sigma.
No, I'm not. It was just that I was confident. I didn't want to be in that position at all. I never sought that position at all. Yeah.
Don't talk over each other.
Sigmas can step into the Alpha role for a while.
Yes.
One of the things about being an Alpha is you have the same stress levels as being an Omega.
Yep.
Believe it or not. Being at the top of the hierarchy is just as bad as being at the bottom, or like basically the dirt at the bottom.
That's why they die young. That's why Alphas die young so often.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the best place to be is the Bravo in a group and I'm always trying to find a group where I can be the Bravo, but it's not easy. You go into a group, and if you can get almost all the benefits of being the Alpha, except you don't have to be the buck stops here final guy. You can shut your computer at the end of the day and go home and not worry about things. That's a great place to be in. The Sigma is also good. I think it depends on the individual. There are two differences. So the Alpha, he needs that social interaction. He needs to lead. It's like in an absence of leadership, I start leading. Whether I like it or not, I feel impelled to do it. The same way I feel impelled to breathe. And the Sigma, he doesn't feel that need. It's not that he doesn't want to. He can do it when he needs to. He just doesn't feel the need to do it. And he doesn't. Also, they don't like the stress that comes with long-term leadership. So normally if you're working with a Sigma and you give him like, it's going to be from here to here, you give him these good boundaries, he'll be like, yeah, okay, I'll step in and help. And I do think that every Alpha needs at least one Sigma that is not on his team, but is beside him, because your Bravos won't always tell you what's wrong until the end. Like they'll wait a little too long because they don't want to let you down. But that Sigma, he doesn't give a shit. So he's going to tell you if things aren't going right. He's going to tell you when you're getting too big for yourself, when you screwed up. And if you have a problem, you can let the Sigma run the ship for a few days while you deal with something.
No, well, that's exactly what happened to me in security after I got out of the army, because I ended up with I'm a failed entrepreneur. I'm working on it now, but I had a failed business, and then I went into security, and then within a couple of years, I actually ended up as supervisor. So I was kind of playing both beta and sigma at the same time, because I was always honest with my boss, and he was a fantastic boss, brother in Christ. I'm still very good mates with him now. But yeah, his name's Adrian. He's absolutely fucking awesome, and his wife Emily is incredible as well. And but yeah, it was a weird time, because I was kind of beta and sigma at the same time, and that I was perfectly honest and open with him with what I saw wrong, and I did get a few things changed within the company that weren't going very well. But at the same time, I could always defer to him, and I could always rely on him to like be the buck stops with him kind of thing. I was kind of like the middleman. But yeah, like even with the guards, like managing the guards and whatnot, if they could go above my head if they didn't like what I did or whatever the case may be. But I wasn't quite his 2IC, but I was kind of like in between him and his wife, who was the general manager, and the guards. And probably the downside of that was that I was the guy going in when my guards were getting hit or getting punched or getting bashed up by the shitbags that we were dealing with. I was the one that had to actually go in and smash the shitbags if we had a guard that wasn't quite up to scratch yet with the violence and whatnot. But no, it was a very weird but very good position to be in. You know, beta and sigma at the same time.
How does someone? Sorry, I'll let you.
Someone earlier asked the question or mentioned alphas get addicted to money and drugs, and the gammas get AIDS.
That was on D-Live.
Yeah, I know. I would say those are all gammas if they're getting addicted, because that's low agency behavior. Now, I will say that some alphas they will over sacrifice themselves for the group and burn out. That's a management issue.
I don't know any alphas.
Yeah, alphas need to really watch their energy expenditure.
Well,
they're getting rare, dear. They're getting rare.
They are, but I'm really around to shoot people.
It's the old Odin thing. So they push hard, burn out, have to have a long sleep. That cycle, that's a kind of a European leadership thing. Is like it's in bursts and spurts. But if you look back at our history, European history, the early kings, say the Dramatic kings, for example, they would share their wealth with all of the bravos, and they would ensure the alphas were taken and protected and taken care of. So they didn't become addicted to money. They were actually concerned about that. You, as a king, got loyalty by sharing your wealth. If you're a king, which is basically a way to say an alpha nowadays, if you're an alpha in a group, you share your wealth. You actually are a servant to the group itself. The group serves you, and you serve the group. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. And when you see it becoming parasitical, you can almost be certain the individual is actually a gamma. If he's
Arminius was very much like that. The guy that destroyed Varus's legions. Yeah, he ended up turning. I think it was 2012 they finally found the Roman bodies and like the Roman skeletons and whatnot. But you had the ambush in the Teutoburg forest, and they wiped out, what was it, Noah? Like 2 or 3 legions. And then Arminius was very much like that.
10 or 20,000 guys. It was thousands and thousands of guys.
Yeah, it was like 3 or 4 legions that just completely wiped out.
Who are the men in society today that like threaten with petty things like, oh, I know your address, I know where you live, I'm going to do this, I'm going to hurt you? What is that? Is that an omega? Is that an alpha? Is that a gamma? Like how would you guys deal with someone like that in real life? Like, do you go after them, or what would you guys do?
Go ahead, Jesse.
No, you first, Noah.
That's very much a gamma set of behavior.
Yep.
And gammas thrive on the feedback from undermining.
Yep.
So they'll irritate you, and they want to see the reaction. Because
but then they don't get the reaction.
But deep down inside, they want to get their asses kicked, and so they're looking for that. I mean, kids will do this too. They'll push and push until they want you to get upset. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And now, better is that you give them the proper attention ahead of time. They won't do that then. but these gammas don't have a father. So not really. I mean, they're adults now. So they're pushing, looking for a response. Now, if you're a woman, the best thing to do is just block them. See, women
but to do that to a woman is so unbelievable. It's like what would you do, Jesse? Sorry, before Noah continues.
It's what would I do? So just beat the fucking shit out of them, and I make sure that they don't go anywhere near you.
Thank you.
I make sure that they're convinced. Sorry to be a little bit crass here, but they're convinced that the next time I come around where they are, I will skull fuck them. I will kick their teeth down their throat, and I'll jam it in there, and I will skull fuck them.
I'm so glad you're my friend, Jesse.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Well, again, like having an ex-military fucking psychotic lunatic in your corner has to have at least one perk, right? But like, and we got connection.
Noah's too far away. Noah's too far away.
But yeah, we're everywhere. We're everywhere. But that's what I do. Like, you fuck with one vet, you fuck with the rest. And that's one good thing about the veteran community, generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, is that, you fuck with one, you fuck with the rest.
You're on my speed dial. Go ahead, Noah.
One of the reason that women have a disgust response to these men is what do you do when something's disgusting? You push it away from you, right? You avoid it.
Oh, you block, you change your phone number, you stay away.
Yeah, and that's the right response for women, because women aren't supposed to be getting in fights. And the response for men is almost always violent, because that is the correct response. Generally, our deep down primal response to social interactions is the right one. It's just that sometimes we're unable to indulge our correct response given the current social climate. So, 100 years ago, if there was a gamma coming around gamming up the place, and someone punched him in the face, the cops, you'd never arrest the puncher. They'd probably find the guy and beat him a few times too, because most of the cops were bravos, and they also would have been disgusted by it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if you do that, you're going to get in trouble. And so you have to be very careful about it. It can't be your first line response. There needs
That's to be okay. We wear masks now, and we wear sunglasses.
Well, masks don't work for me. I can't hide the entire beard behind it.
That's true.
Also with that, I love that meme. You got that shop over in the USA. I think it's in Texas or somewhere, and they're very against the mask wearing and all that kind of shit. And they put up a sign on the front of their. I'm paraphrasing here, but they put up a sign on the front of their shop saying, "If you come in here wearing a mask, we'll shoot you." Just saying, because generally people that come in here with a mask, we shoot them.
It's actually illegal to go into a gun store with a mask on for obvious reasons. Also, to go into a bank, and it's also illegal to wear a mask while you are armed. And that's a little nebulous, because that can.
Nice one, dear.
So the laws are actually conflicting in that case. You have to wear a mask to get into places, but you can't wear a mask if you're armed. And technically, the one is an actual law, and the other is a regulation. So you can, as long as you're strapped, you can avoid wearing a mask where that's legal in the U.S. But yeah, there is one of the things that Dia was mentioning is, so what are we going to do? Who and what men in society are going to resolve the issues that we have now? So
during the C-19, the Rona, yes, that was part of the topic, but we went over the hour. We didn't even mention that yet.
Here's the reason that men aren't doing anything, is because most of us aren't in a proper hierarchy, or our hierarchies are way too small to act alone. And normally, this kind of pressure on men causes us to form into hierarchies, which, as you mentioned, are fractal. So, the alphas start getting together and allying with each other. And pretty soon there's pushback. And this has always happened throughout history. This is why they sent us home. This is why they're socially distancing us. They know that if we're you get a bunch of guys together talking about how bad things are, and the testosterone starts to flow, and we're going to decide to take some sort of an action. And they want to avoid that by keeping us separate.
That's exactly right. And look at any social experiment as well. Like remember with Survivor and a couple of these other shows, like you get like a woman's island and a man's island, and the men just naturally sort themselves out. And the leader kind of ends up where he is.
And like, the women are like,
the women just get catty, but the men kind of just left to their own devices. We always sort ourselves out. It's like, what can you do? What can you do? What can you do? Okay, this guy's obviously he knows his shit, so he'll be the leader, and like a hierarchy naturally forms.
I guarantee you, if you threw one masculine man in that woman's group, that he would organize them and they'd be fine. The women are literally waiting around for someone to tell them what to do and be the boss. They may not like it, but they need it. That's why they're not getting anything done. But yeah, with the men, people will say, oh, men are so prideful. No, we actually have a lot of humility. That's why we're going to say, hey, you're the alpha. You're better than me at this. I'm going to follow your instructions. Yeah. You could be an alpha in one group, go into another group and go, holy crap, this guy's way better than me. I'm going to follow him.
That's exactly. Unless you're a gammas don't do that, but the rest do. Yeah.
Exactly. Unless, and we don't look at it as, oh, I must suck because I'm not as good as them. Like if you take two women and compare them, the one that gets the lesser comparison, if they hear the comparison, will always feel insulted. With men, they're like, no, that just seems rational. Yeah, I can see that I'm not quite as good as him. And
that's
we internalize everything.
We understand the power of the hierarchy. Mm-hmm. When you follow a man who's better than you, you can accomplish things that you couldn't have accomplished on your own.
Yep.
Yeah, I believe that.
But see, male hierarchies are designed to take advantage of high risk, high opportunity situations. Mm. And so we have to have that. The hierarchy is a quick response mechanism. We form it very quickly. We can respond to threats and opportunities quickly. But women, they tend to form a circle. That's why you'll see women's groups always connected with circles. They form a circle, they work together. There's not a lot of hierarchy, and they come to a consensus on what to do. And there's a good reason for that. Women are very much clustered around average. Most women are average. Yep. Men are not. We have like really dumb but can be useful men, and we have really brilliant men as well.
Yeah, you got the bell curve. You got the bell curve. There's a lot of
our bell curve is stretched, and women's is very compressed. So the fact that the chance of having in a women's group a genius woman is close to nil. The chance in a male group, in a hierarchy, of having a genius man that's worth following, that's going to amplify the power of the group, is almost 100%.
Yeah, on the flip side, the chances in a female group of finding a complete idiot is pretty low, but the chances of finding complete idiots with males is higher.
Yeah, that's why the women want to listen to what everyone in the group has to say, because probably everybody knows something. Whereas the male group, we know that some people are idiots, and hey, we don't actually fault them for that. You're still our brother, or you wouldn't be in the group. We'd kick you out into the wild. You're still our brother. We're not going to take seriously what you're saying. You're just going to do what you're told.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're probably not going to get married because we don't pass those genes on. Thank you. But we're going to find something for you to do. And
that's right.
Different. There's a male strategy and a female strategy. One of the biggest things that has happened to destroy men in the last, since the Second World War, is that male workspaces don't exist anymore, hardly. Not even in the military anymore. Have you watched the movie Ford versus Ferrari?
No.
Okay, definitely watch it. It's essentially two groups of men in male-only spaces competing. It follows mostly the Ford side, but competing for honor in racing.
Okay.
And that's really, you're not competing to win a race. You're competing for the honor of winning a race. And they're really, both groups pursue. It's from the 1960s, I guess. Yeah, something like this.
Yeah, it sounds very much like a film about maybe Logos.
Yeah, Well, both groups are pursuing excellence in their area, and they're doing that at high risk. Racing is very dangerous. And what's he?
Is he a Simca or is he a Gamma? What is he?
He's a cuck and she's a bitch.
He's an Omega. He's an Omega. If he wasn't born to a royal family, no one would know he exists.
Yep.
He is
he's a cuck and she's a toxic bitch.
Yeah, Meghan Markle.
Is she a sociopath? Someone told me the other day. I think it was Evelyn Ray. She reckons that she's a sociopath. No, she didn't say sociopath, but
I'd say gold digger, but
Yeah.
No, I'd say
basically,
social climate.
basically, he is her pet.
Yeah.
That's what I got. I got the same thing.
He's not even her wife. Like, there are cases where I'm like, which one's the husband, which one's the wife? Yeah, he's a simp. You know, he's almost worse than a simp now because he owns him.
I didn't mean to change the subject. I'm sorry, but yeah, he is a simp, isn't he? He's pussy whipped.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
is it okay to say on this show what we called it an infantry?
Yeah, go ahead. Say it again.
Huh?
Is it okay to say on the show what we would call a simp or a cuck in infantry?
What is that?
It's a little bit nasty.
Go say it. I want to know.
All right, we'd say cunt struck.
That's horrid.
Yeah, he's a military man. He's allocated one swear word per minute. It's officially in his discharge papers. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your line of thinking before.
No, but it's absolutely true. It's like, I don't know. She can't have a magic pussy, but that something like that. He's under this little spell. But we always had that concept. We always had that concept of women putting men under a spell.
Yeah.
And getting control of them. And the reason that we have stories like that in our native stories from Europe is because it's a warning for men not to fall into that. In the story of, I think it's Snow White, the huntsman, it says that the queen takes his heart, and he ends up, there's a phrase where he says something along, I didn't want to do it, but she basically has control of me. She's essentially, and it's not his heart that she took, but she took some part of his anatomy, and she now has control of him. And there are manipulative women that do that. That can happen to any man, but that generally happens to men of lower agency.
I wish I knew how to manipulate a man. I've never known how to do that. I've never known how to use my feminine wiles because I didn't know. I don't know. I don't operate or function that way. I don't understand it at all.
But that's a good thing, because once you start doing it, once you start manipulating people and you realize you have that power, it's very hard. It's very hard to give it up.
All you got to do, dear, like I said when you're on the show with the friend Anne,
oh yeah, I love her. Yeah,
Noah will back me up with this. Is just find a guy you can tolerate and make yourself irresistible to him. It won't be too hard for you. On what Noah was saying, with with the stories that we have, for example, like the classical stories such as Troy, or you have Shakespeare of Romeo and Juliet, and these days it's viewed as, oh, it's so romantic and this is great. And no, they're warning stories. They're stories as to what not to do. You don't go banging another dude's wife and causing a war that causes your city to get wiped out. And you don't marry a girl you've known for a couple of days and then end up killing yourself over her.
Yeah, so retarded.
It's just, these are warning stories, but they're so popularized in this postmodern era. It's wrong. Like, it's the wrong reading of it. Would you agree, Noah?
Yeah, absolutely. When the stories were written, we lived in societies with very strict hierarchies, and the alpha, he understands the long term. One of the things about the differences too is that the alpha has a very long term vision. He doesn't see his children. He sees 1,000 years into the future for the tribe, what's going to happen. The Bravo, he sees, how am I going to protect my wife and kids and family? That's why he's a Bravo. He's there to defend what exists, okay, to conserve it. And the Delta, he's just like, he sees what's in front of him, that one task in front of him. He's like a day-by-day liver. And back when we had a society that was run in a hierarchy, the Alpha was there to help the Bravos and the Deltas avoid these stupid short-term decisions that had long-term negative consequences. And then we had, and this is not a concept from our culture, this radical individualism is not part of Western culture. It was foisted upon us by non-Europeans to say, oh, you guys are a bunch of radical individualists. No, we're not. We're a bunch of communitarists, not communists.
Daniel H., I'm drinking Iron Jack, mate. I haven't had many because I've got to do a show, so I'm not drunk. But yeah, Iron Jack, red, I'd highly recommend it. Sorry, Noah.
Keep going, Noah.
No problem. We're designed. We are psychologically fit to operate within a hierarchy, within a community. And when we did that, we were better off. Like Dia, if you were in a community all your life, you would have got married at 16 to 19, somewhere in there, and you'd already have 6 kids.
25,
and you'd already
maybe 25. 6 kids.
You'd already have 6 kids by now. And this is what happened, because there are things that we shouldn't have to worry about. The deltas should not have to worry about finding a mate. The deltas should not have to worry about defending the perimeter. This is the job of the Bravos and the Alphas. There are things that each group needs to worry about. The Alpha should not worry about plowing the fields. He should be thinking about how to make sure the fields aren't overrun by enemies. But we have no more in society. We have no more structure. We have Alphas, we have Bravos, we have Deltas, each doing their own thing in their own corner. We're run by Gammas.
Yep.
And our entire society is suffering for it. We're overrun by invaders. Our culture is undermined. It's been replaced with a cult of submission and just terrible destruction to our culture. And this is all because we don't have the male hierarchy. The solution
half the politicians. Oh, sorry. The solution. Yep. Sorry. Go.
Well, the solution is to hang the politicians, but
Yep.
I was going to ask whether
some gammas can't be fixed. Okay, the ones in politics, they've committed treason against the Western peoples. This is not something that we can fix in them. It needs to be fixed by removing them from society. However, we can't do any of that until we reform into male hierarchy.
Don't get me fucking started on ScoMo. Do not get me started.
Is ScoMo a Gamma, though? Is our Prime Minister a Gamma?
He certainly seems so. I was warning people about that slime ball, that sack of shit, before he even got elected, and I got nothing.
Calm down. He's a Christian. So
sorry, I can't stand him.
Well, sorry. Don't forget, Christ clearly said, "Not everyone who calls on my name, I will recognize."
This is true.
Just because someone says they're a Christian doesn't mean they are.
Yes. No, I agree with that.
I can say I'm 7 feet tall. That doesn't make me 7 feet tall. No, but we won't get to that point until we do the very thing that they're afraid of us doing, and that is forming up into our own hierarchies. That means the Alphas need to go and take responsibility for their groups. Bravos need to recognize that they can't be Gammas. They're going to have to follow someone. Not everyone's going to be a leader. They're going to have to follow someone, but they're also going to have some responsibility. And we need to look after our Delta brothers. We need to take our brothers that are your average everyday guy, your 5 out of 10 guy, and we got to make sure that they're the best man they can be, that they're getting a woman, that they're getting married, that they're happy, that they're healthy, that they're invested, not in society, because society sucks, it's broken. They need to be invested in our hierarchy, We are not going to defeat the evil elites with an army of peasants. We're going to defeat the evil elites by creating our own aristocracy, our own Alpha Kings, our own Bravo Knights, and our own Delta production class, and we're going to outcompete them. That's how we're going to win.
That's the thing, Noah, though, with me personally, like I agree 100% with what you're saying. I'm wondering if that's actually possible, because for me personally, the way, like, I've only been political for probably about 6 years now, but it's not the corporatocracy. It's not like the NWO or whatever the case may be. They're not the ones that scare me. What scares me is the sheer amount of subversives that we have in the populace. They're bred like rats. They're just bred like rabbits. Like how? Well, how do you get rid of so many of these assholes?
Interesting point. They're not really bred. They are. They're created. Okay.
Yeah, I understand.
Because most of them are not breeding. They're not having kids, and that's part of the solution. That's why I said within our hierarchy. So we form up a group of men. We got 20, 30 men together, and an Alpha, 2 or 3 Bravos, and a bunch of Deltas, and you make sure everyone's having 10 kids. Who's going to win the next generation? The people that have 5 to 10 kids, or the people that have 0 kids, cut off their testicles, and pretend to be a woman?
Yeah.
Who's going to win in 50 years from now? We will win if we fight. Not only that,
I was going to say stupid can't sustain stupid. It would have to revert back eventually. It just makes sense to, because it just doesn't work. But sorry, keep going. No, I didn't mean to interrupt. But this is my show. I'm just kidding.
Sorry. What's going to happen though is we have to recreate that, and the system that exists now is breaking down and falling apart.
Yeah.
Good. I want that to happen.
We're collapsing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing though, right? It's technically a good thing that we're collapsing.
Yes,
so
it is.
Okay.
If you have a hierarchy, imagine you have a group of 100 men working together. It's 100 families basically working together. You have 1,000 mentally disturbed individuals milling around. And there's a competition between the two groups, a violent competition. We'll call it a violent competition. Between the two groups, who's going to win?
The 100.
Yeah, every single time. The number of people is not what makes you win. It's your in-group preference. It's how tight you stick with your group, and it's your willingness to follow that male hierarchy and fight.
Yeah, it's like the battle at Long Tan. Like probably not your style, dear, but I'd highly recommend a movie called Danger Close. And you had 108 men versus 2,500 NVA and Viet Cong. Who won? The 108 men.
108 because they were strategic.
They were trained. They had the hierarchy. They had all of that, and they won. And I know I've drank with these guys. Like I know these guys. That's why I love the movie. I'd highly recommend it. By the way.
Okay.
Danger Close.
Yeah, it is. When you fight with other men and they're on your team and they're in your hierarchy, you're not fighting just for a purpose, because you forget that in the moment of battle. You're not sitting there shooting back and going, yeah, democracy. You're sitting there like, man, I got to cover the guy on my right.
Yep.
He reloads.
That's exactly what
you're thinking about. And you have a bunch of rugged individualists, and they're like, how can I stand behind this guy so I don't get shot?
They shit me, eh? They shit me, that mob. Sorry.
Yeah. No, but what it means is we're way more powerful than we think. There's a reason they fear us. Google my name, see some of the articles that were written about me.
Me too.
Yeah, they fear our ability to unite, our ability to fight, our ability to have wives and children and businesses and survive without them. We don't need the evil elite. We can defeat them. And we can starve them, because without a producer class for them to rape, and without bravos and alphas to protect them, and all the bravos and alphas are starting to go, screw them. Without these guys to protect them, they don't have any power. Money is not power. What's power is the
elites know this too. Sorry, keep going.
Yes. And we need to teach people how to no longer be able to be manipulated and controlled by them, and their power will wash away. They have castles built on sand, and all we have to do is fight back.
So Noah, sorry, just to divert the topic a little bit, are these elites, do they know this, and is that why they're trying to poison us by sterilizing us and making us get seizures and Bell's palsy? Is because we can win? Yes,
this is why they have undermined the alpha. Take a look at every movie that comes out of Hollywood and notice that it's all about the gammas beating the alphas. It's all about the gammas beating the alphas. It's completely unrealistic. There's movies where you'll have
Revenge of the Nerds.
You'll have an entire culture of masculine men, and the hero is the one there who's like a foot shorter than everyone, skinny, effeminate, gamma. I'm being careful what I say on live, but he basically fits a certain racial archetype of a certain group of people, and he's in the midst of these big Nordics. And
are you talking about the small hats?
Yeah, those who we shall not name.
Okay.
Yes, those who we shall not name. So what ends up happening is it's this constant brainwashing to us to dislike the alpha. The alpha is always this evil jock. Don't ever follow anybody except for big corporations and what the leftist government says in the media. Don't join up into a group. Don't be a man. Don't be violent. Don't defend your brothers. Don't have high levels of in-group preference and intolerance for people who are different. Don't do any of that stuff.
Just judgment.
basically they'd like us all to be omegas.
And that's the thing.
That's what they really want.
And what you just said there, Noah, about don't be intolerant. That's our biggest problem, as far as I can see. That's one of our biggest problems is tolerance. That is what was it? Aristotle said, tolerance is the last virtue of a dying society. Now, I'm not fully into the philosopher thing, but following philosophers, but I think that's 100% correct. Our biggest problem is tolerance, that we tolerate these underclasses, that we tolerate all of these subversive, parasitic, just toxic groups of people, that we actually tolerate them instead of outing them,
judging them,
or out them.
We're in a society. It's a sin to judge. Don't judge. Judge the pedophile. Judge the rapist. Judge them, please.
Well, see, those are the people that need to be permanently eliminated from society.
Reprobates.
Individuals who, it's not just that we tolerate them; it's that we allow them to have a say in things that are way above their pay grade. You know, historically, it was the alphas and the alphas ran society. If it came to violence, the bravos also had a say in that because they put their asses on the line. We didn't make the deltas go out and get killed. They got to stay home and be safe. You know, the aristocracy would sacrifice itself, and this has happened in history, to protect the producer class. That was their job. That was the deal. You know, the warrior class didn't pay taxes. In money, they pay taxes in blood. That's how they pay the taxes.
We trade in blood.
With their blood.
That's what we do. We trade in blood. That's our job. I can say, as one of the warrior class, that's what we do.
Absolutely. And so we need to get back to protecting our deltas. We need to get back. You know, if you're a man, if you're a delta, and you see that I just like my job, I like to focus on getting stuff done, making things, doing things, whatever makes me happy, go look for an organization run by strong alphas and follow it. If you're an alpha or a bravo, start coalescing, getting together. You know, maybe you find a better alpha and you end up becoming a bravo. That's not a problem. Find that, start rebuilding things, and start recreating these structures in society. Don't go out and register an organization. Don't start some sort of an official club. Don't do anything that the elites can directly target. Men don't need to go out and say, okay, there's a bunch of us now. Let's make some official name for this group. No, just go out and be together and start building your bonds with each other.
So get
There'll
off
be a
grid,
time to wear colors and fight, but this isn't it yet.
So get off grid, network. Get a mechanic on board, get a doctor on board, get plumber on board, Sparky on board, and network, and to do it like Amish style,
Hire your own people. You need a mechanic. Why are you going to somebody you don't know? Go to your brother, your blood brother. Go to your blood brother. Who's in your group. Go to him and don't underpay him. Don't go, I'm going to go to him because it's going to be cheaper. He's my buddy. No. Pay him 10% more than he asks. Pay him more than he asks. Pay the people in your group more. Treat them better. Build that loyalty up. And support your local alphas. Support your bravos. You know, make sure that they understand that you've got their back. They'll lead you if you're worthy of being led. But if people aren't worthy of being led, no leader will appear.
That's because men today, a lot of them, the ones who think they're alphas and think they're attractive and have all of that, they lack loyalty. And most women, I feel, also lack a lot of loyalty. I feel like you two both know me on some level, and I'd like to think I have loyalty, and that I know it's a rare trait, but I do, don't I? I think I do.
Yes. Women tend to lack loyalty because women are usually property. That's really controversial to say that. But it is de facto what it is.
No, that's what it is. I'm not offended by that statement.
We can discuss whether it's still like that, but in history they were property. Property doesn't need to have loyalty. It has devotion. So women had devotion to their
Not to mention just among women as well, like the platonic I don't know if you call it platonic, but the relationships among women. Like, I know you're not like this, dear, but just my female friends and what I've seen women do to each other amongst themselves as friends, you guys are nasty, man. the shit that you guys do to each other, like, is nasty. It's just so vindictive. And
oh, I've dealt with a lot with the here. Some of the women are here. But I haven't changed my photos in years, but it is rough. And I'm not going to sit here and say I've always been perfect, but I don't understand not being loyal. Like, and the only reason I wouldn't be loyal to someone is if I've been manipulated and hurt enough times to be like, okay, they're no good for me, which you both know about.
Loyalty is a two-way street with that. So if they're not being loyal to you, they don't deserve loyalty from you.
Exactly. Well, that's what pisses me off. Yes.
One of the things that men tend to see instinctually, and it's harder for women to figure out, is that loyalty needs to be earned. And you know, you give a little bit of benefit of the doubt, a little bit of loyalty. You see if they earn it, and it's a cycle. It builds up over time. Yeah. With women, they will tend to give a lot of loyalty first to their first boyfriend or second boyfriend. That gets abused, and when your loyalty gets abused, it actually messes with your mind. And it actually has physical consequences, and it takes some time to overcome that. And what it does is
I lost 10 kilos.
it makes you less loyal as well. It makes you less loyal because you're like, hey, what was the point of that? I just got hurt. And the issue is to be more selective and intolerant of who you're loyal to.
Oh, I agree. That's so true.
Yeah. Extreme loyalty, but also extreme intolerance of people who don't deserve that loyalty.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And when you get kicked in the teeth enough times, like all three of us, I'm sure, would be kicked in the teeth.
Oh, you have, Jesse, from what you've told me. My God, your family.
Yeah. Same with you.
I'll keep it there. I won't.
No, you're right. No, that's fine. And like same with you with your ex friends and all that kind of stuff. Like when you get kicked in the teeth enough times, you do eventually learn. Don't throw your pearls to swine. Don't do it.
That's a Bible verse somewhere, right? Don't throw your pearls.
Yeah, it is. Matthew, I know Mark.
I don't know.
I think
Noah, you should know. You're an ex-minister.
I think it's one of the Proverbs.
Oh, it's
I'm dyslexic.
I think so too, but when Dear put it up, it actually worked out to be Mark or Matthew. So
did I read it today?
Don't forget, some of the New Testament is quoting some of the Old Testament, so sometimes it's in both places. But no, but the real key to this is men have to get back into these hierarchies.
Yeah. Yes,
So
if
you're a man and you're a Sigma is okay because Sigmas will be attracted into hierarchies as a periphery. They're not a member of the hierarchy, but they're an important integral part of the system. They also often bridge different hierarchies. So they act as an ambassador, making peace between different hierarchies. But if you're a Gamma or a Omega and you want to get into a hierarchy, if you're an Omega, go approach. Hey, look, go to a gym. If you're an Omega, you want to find alphas and bravos, go to a gym. Strong men exercise, hang out together, do stuff together. Go to there and say, I want to get in shape. Most of the time, the alphas and bravos are actually. This sounds weird, but we're usually pretty loving guys. Like we really want to help people. That's why you end up in a leadership position. And you go to the gym. I've seen this happen at the gym. Big fat guy comes in. All the gym bros are like, "Oh, dude, it's so good to see you here again." He's coming in. Everyone's like, "Hey, how you doing?" They're like doubly friendly to him. Yeah. I'm always super friendly to everybody at the gym, so they're super friendly to me. But the Omega doesn't say hello to anyone because he's too shy. But when he comes in the gym, they make an effort to reach out.
Noah, do me a favor and do that.
Flex, man, flex. Nice. Nice.
Sorry.
That's awesome, man. See, unlike me, that's awesome, man. It's great to see that you're in such good shape. I'm busted from 8 years of infantry work. So I don't have fuck all anymore. I can still do damage, but I'm too busted to do.
It's okay, Jesse. You're on my speed dial.
But I'm a bit too busted, man. But there was one stage where I looked like you. Like when I joined the army, because of my BMI was low. When I joined the army, they put me on double rations, so I went from my natural weight of 71 kilo. I went up to 86, and I stayed that way until the end of security. Now I'm back down to 71. But I'm naturally pretty skinny. But you got a great build, man. That's really good to see.
Yeah, that's where I am right now is 86 kilos. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. if you look into some of the things
57.
that pro athletes are doing, you know, there's these because it's very much the same. They push too hard. The military pushes you too hard. And so does, I mean, it didn't used to be like that. You had legionnaires that were in the legions for 25 years, got out, retired, and went farming. So
That's true,
yeah. Now, because we're run by gammas, they just see you as consumables.
Yeah.
You know, you're a consumable resource. This is part of the problem in society, why men are so depressed. We're not in a hierarchy. We're seen as consumable resources by a bunch of evil gammas that are in charge of things. And so we have no purpose. We're getting eaten up. We have no alpha to be loyal to. Look, when Trump came around, everybody went, oh, look, an alpha.
Yeah.
Okay? He may not have been the alpha we needed, but he reminded people that, and he reminded any potential alphas out there waiting in the wings, that the right man will get a following.
Yep.
Now, a lot of people said, he's Hitler, he's Hitler, he's Hitler 2.0. No.
He's literally
the guy who got, yeah, people don't realize it though, that because Trump wasn't able to do his job and actually resolve things and bring peace again, the guy who will come up next is going to make Hitler look like a good guy. No. Because people
many already see him as a good guy. People need to research all this stuff. But yeah, keep going.
That's not for public consumption.
I didn't say anything. I said
maybe you should have said Stalin or Mao.
Yeah. What's going to happen is they're going to get a reaction. You know, that the left often talks about the right as being reactionaries, and that's exactly what it is. You poke us enough times. You know, the alphas are pretty chill, actually. You know, they have a lot of energy, but they're pretty chill. They keep the group from getting out of control, so they're pretty chill.
The sleeping bag.
Yeah, but they go from 0 to 60 instantly. Okay? What happens is they make the decision, and society, there's all of these alphas out there, they're going to start going out and gathering their men soon. They're already doing it. In the US, there are militias growing like mad, organizing, training. They have ex-special forces, ex-CIA, ex-FBI, ex-NSA agents in there. They're creating their own secondary government structure.
Alpha, Daniel. Sorry.
Becoming a boss is definitely an alpha.
Alpha.
Yeah. So
definitely.
What's going to happen is they're going to poke these people long enough, and you have to understand the alpha, his job is to protect the group. He will sacrifice anyone and anything to protect the group. And he has no problem if he decides that this entire group of people needs to disappear from the face of the earth to protect my group, the alpha can make that decision. Now, the Bravos and the Deltas might find that uncomfortable, but they're not in charge. When things get really bad, all the power gets given to the alpha, and the alpha goes out and decides what needs to be done, and the others go, I may not like it, but I'm going to do it. And I don't think that the evil elites realize what kind of thin ice they're treading right now. I do know that with
the militias, like you were saying, like a lot of my mates are actually in those militias. A lot of my mates and my American mates, most of them are ex-Marine. Like we did a lot of training with US Army and USMC. And a lot of them, when they got out, they joined these militias. And yeah, a lot of my mates are in these militias, and they are pissed off, man. They are really, really pissed off. It would be interesting to see how it goes.
So, someone here mentioned Hitler was a murderer. Well, I'm going to tell you something about alphas and bravos. That's not an insult.
Nope.
That's our job.
I wrote that. I sort of wrote that to retract what I said earlier.
Our job in society is pruning the individuals that don't belong in society anymore, correcting those who we can correct, and eliminating those we can't correct, and protecting our group from external threats by any means necessary. And people do not realize, they don't realize what's happening in society. The evil elites have pushed all the alphas and bravos out of the government, out of the police force, out of the military. They're pushing them all out. And where are they pushing them? They're pushing them into a big pile together with the civilians, and then they're ostracizing them and telling them you have no place here anymore.
Yeah, and they don't understand as well that, so these leftists and these elite, they're doing what Alinsky said. Saul Alinsky, who wrote Rules for Radicals in the 60s. But what we do Sun Tzu. And Sun Tzu, like the best form of conflict is one where you don't have to fire a shot. But if you got to fire a shot, you go to town.
Yeah.
You leave nothing to chance. You go all out.
This is hard for me. This is pack mentality for men, right? This is like, this is the whole, yeah, okay.
What I tell people is, okay, so starting in 2016, we'd see young men in the streets fighting, right and left, fighting with each other. The right-wing guys started to slowly disappear from the street because they realized that the police would go after them and not after the left. They also realized that they weren't going to win any long-term battle that way.
No.
But what I keep telling people is, when young guys go out in the street, they have nothing to lose. So for them, it's all opportunity. They're going to go out pretty easy to fight.
Yep.
When you start seeing middle-aged guys, like I'm 42, middle-aged guys with wives and children getting into the fight, now you're in trouble, because we can't get halfway in. We're all in.
Yep.
We can't lose.
We've got skin in the game. We have skin in the game.
I'm not going to leave anybody left behind. We're not going to leave anyone left alive to bring us up on charges later. So there's going to be no Slobodin Milosevic-ness, because there isn't going to be anybody left to do it. And it's not going to be in one country or another. It's going to be globally all at once. And it's going to happen overnight. You know, a couple of years ago, everyone's like, oh, cryptocurrency is nothing. It's not a real thing. All of a sudden, boom, it's in consciousness. Big changes like that happen suddenly. Once they start, they're unstoppable. And this is, we're heading into this point. So people say, can we win? Are we going to win? Is things going to get better? Yes, they're going to get better. But first, we have some work to do.
They're going to get a lot worse before they get better, and there will be blood running in the streets, that's for sure.
Yeah. And we're not saying this. This is not us threatening someone.
No.
We're warning them. We're saying, watch out. This is what's going to happen. You've pushed it too far. I don't think there's any reeling this in right now. Both sides are dug in. It's just a matter of enough people have to start coming together, and it's going to happen. And we're really, really close to that point. And, those who are the deltas are nervous and scared about it. The alphas and bravos are like, it's our time to shine.
So what about the elites? Are the elites made up of mainly
gammas?
You said the money isn't power, but it is with half of them. Oprah Winfrey is part of them. And she's a female.
Money is power. So what happens if you had $1 trillion Zimbabwe dollars before the inflation went? Then after the inflation, that's worth about $1.50.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what's happening with ours. Our currencies are so watered down now that they're so inflated. We're very close to Germany.
I know a man, he runs a militia with 10,000 men. If he phoned up, if the cops arrested him and took him into custody and he made a phone call, he'd have 10,000 men there breaking him out. They died.
That's the true nature of power.
A lot of the men that are in his militia were orphans and were street kids and stuff like that, and he helped them out when they were younger. They will die for him.
Yep.
They'll kill for him too.
Yep. That's
real power. Society goes to shit. That values up. That doesn't devalue. It's society.
It's the warrior class, the soldier class. Violence is the ultimate expression of diplomacy, is it not?
Yes, it is the only real currency. All currencies are backed on violence. That's why the US dollar is so powerful, biggest military in the world. That's why the British currency was so powerful when they were the biggest military in the world. Violence is the only currency. All other currencies are a proxy for violence.
Well, let's get it going, guys. No, I'm kidding. I'm not gonna do a call. No, I'm joking, guys. Anyone watching me? Anyone who I'm connected to who is a little more mainstream.
Yeah.
I was joking, but I do think civil disobedience is something more I would call for. Italy opened 50,000 restaurants. A week later, the police had no idea what to do. I would call for that. These men have separate opinions to me, but it sounds like what they're saying, I have an understanding of it. Let's say that. All right.
Women will take one of two positions.
Civil disobedience.
Women's position will be, oh God, we can never have violence. Okay, that's the women who have no men that care about them.
I actually don't call for violence, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Women that don't have a man to protect them probably aren't going to make it through what's coming. Okay.
Yep.
And who aren't part of any group who don't have any men. It doesn't mean they have a husband or a father, just men that care about them. But the women that have men that care about them are like, let's get this thing going.
Yep.
Okay. But us men, we're not being cowards. We're being cautious. And it's not because we're worried about ourselves. It's because we know the things we're going to have to do, we're going to have to live with.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I told you, calling the Alphas and Bravos murderers isn't an insult, but we still understand our power and we're cautious about using it.
And it's not just that, Noah, it's also that time spent. So the civilian saying is that time spent in reconnaissance is rarely wasted. Now the military saying, the infantry saying is time spent in reconnaissance is never wasted. You don't go into an op unless you know you're going to win. If you go into an op without the initiative, that's a big thing in a fight. You never, ever, ever let the enemy have the initiative. So you make sure you have the initiative going in. If you don't have that reconnaissance done and you don't have the initiative, you will not gain moral ascendancy and you will not be victorious. Once you surrender that initiative, they gain moral ascendancy. And from moral ascendancy, that's where you're done. You're defeated in detail. That's it. You're fucked. So you got to be careful how we do it. Yeah.
Well, and we don't want to go out there bearing our chest to get shot. There are high return on investment things we can do. And we also have to understand that it is our culture, it is a requirement that before we engage in conflict, that we attempt to resolve it peacefully.
Yeah.
That is our moral imperative.
Oh, I agree with that.
We are about out of options to resolve it peacefully.
Yeah, it's a bit like
civil disobedience is, huh? What'd you say, Jesse?
Sorry, dear, I was just saying it's a bit like the movie Falling Down. Like you see with Foster in Falling Down, played by Michael Douglas or whatever his name was. He would always try and negotiate before he finally blew his shit.
Oh, okay.
Like at the start, he'd always try and negotiate first before he actually went off the rails.
Yeah. Yeah, but Noah just said that there's no peace. But civil disobedience in Italy did it with all the 50,000 restaurants opening, regardless of what the cops and what the military and what the state informed. So it's still possible to do it with peace.
I said we're about out of options. We're not
Okay, sorry.
We're about out of options. So in Italy, the reason it worked is because the government wasn't willing to use its currency of violence against 50,000 Italians backed by maybe another million clients and family and friends. When you operate, see, basically what they did is they already had a hierarchy going. So the restaurateurs had an organization going before COVID.
Yep.
They just all went and strengthened that. Instead of it being a club, they took that male hierarchy and turned it to war. It was war against the state.
But done cleverly.
Another, and there was no shooting and no fighting because halfway through they ended up coming to an agreement and the soldiers go back.
Sorry.
The police went into the restaurants and they looked around and said, "We're not going to make it out of here if we start arresting people." It was
exactly. Power in numbers. Why doesn't Spain do this? My father's country in Spain. Why doesn't Portugal, where you live, do this? Why don't we, Jesse, where we live in Australia, why don't we do this?
There's another facet to that, and it's historical.
What do you mean?
The Roman Peninsula, from the time that the city-states started being melded into Rome, and you had the Etruscans, I think they were called. They were the southern part of Rome, all the way through today. That place has seen so much violence. There's so much blood in that soil that probably the Italian government realizes that we pushed too far, man. We're fucked. There's so much blood in that soil. They know if they push it too far, that's it. They're done.
And that's something we have to see too. We mentioned earlier that the hierarchy matches the trifunctional system with the aristocracy, the warrior class, and the producer class. What the evil elites have attempted to do is push us all out of the hierarchy into the bottom, which is the slave class, the thralls. They pushed us into that slave class. And Plato said that the aristocracy was one kind of government, the timocracy, that is the government, the rule by the warrior class, was another. there was an oligarchy, which is ruled by the producer class. And then below that is democracy. That's what we're in now. That's ruled by the slaves.
Yep.
And we are a slave class. We have been pushed into that, and we've had our rights taken away from us.
Yep.
And a slave rebellion is going to be required. But like I said before, we can't be a bunch of slaves and a bunch of peasants basically and beat their structure. We need to form our own little structures and shoot up into their space and push them out.
Yeah, well, that's how Spartacus got defeated with the slave rebellion, because that's what he was leading. It was all a bunch of like, they weren't warriors, and that's why it only took a few legions to crush Spartacus, even though he was ex-serving military and a gladiator himself. That's what crushed him, because his army was made up of peasants.
Yeah. And it's interesting that the Romans were never thought of as the best individual combatants. A lot of people said it was either the Iber Celts, so the Portuguese and Spanish tribes, or perhaps the Scottish, who were the best, Scottish Irish, who were the best individual fighters. However, they had a very tight hierarchy, and they worked together and they cooperated, and that made up for individual deficiencies. And together, they were much more powerful than the sum of their parts. And people don't realize how few Romans conquered the entire world.
Yeah, it was like, I think at the peak of its power, correct me if I'm wrong, Noah, because I'm a little rusty on this, but at the peak of its power, Rome still only had about 150,000 troops in its legions, and a legion's 5,000 men. So whatever 150,000 divided by 5,000 is, I couldn't tell you. I'm shit at maths, but it wasn't a lot.
Yeah, there's only like 20 something legions operational at any one time. Yeah. Because if you had, in the early part, you had to be a Roman citizen. In really early times, you had to either be born from Rome or Alba, or that was the second city that joined them. So you had to really be like part of their core racial demographic to get into the military. I guess maybe they were all the same height and they fit in the uniforms better. But they actually fell.
And for the shield level as well, like you can't have one dude that's like, not that they got that tall back then, but you can't have one dude that's more. Doesn't work that way.
Yeah, tall guys are going to attract more archery fire, so they got to,
Yeah, and his shield's going to be that high up, he can't protect his mate. People forget that as well. The shields weren't only to protect yourself. The shields were to protect the non-weapon side of the dude next to you.
But this is a really important point. So that's obvious in battle, but we're not in we're in a battle that's much closer to the European reconquest than we are to any battle that's of recent times. The European reconquest took 700 years. That's 35 generations. The way that they won was by the lords of the manor ensuring that everyone was okay in their community, looking after everyone from the top to the bottom, ensuring that all the deltas had wives, ensuring that the crops were taken care of by people that were competent, ensuring everyone had a house, ensuring everyone ate.
Provision and protection. Provision, protection, and
don't worry about saving up food. Don't worry about saving up food, because you're in my manor. You're kind of my property, but I also have to look after you. It's a deal between. Nobody can touch you because you're mine. That means they're touching me. Okay, so that keeps you safe from other villages coming and kidnapping you and making you a slave. Okay, because I'm going to go after you. I'm not going to let them take my people.
What did the Gammas do back then? Where were they?
They got killed or they got made better.
They got made better. Okay.
Well, a lot of them got the crap kicked out of them, and then they actually became useful. Some of them joined the church, and there was a bit of church undermining of society for a while.
The Catholics,
That's been a constant problem for the church, because the church is fairly non-violent, and they, maybe
that's not true.
The church may encourage violence, but they don't the priests themselves don't normally get involved.
Oh, sorry. Okay, sure.
Maybe if they had like Fight Club inside the church, that would help.
You don't have a pope fucking leading a charge. That doesn't happen.
No, not at all.
I want to see a stacked pope. Like I want to.
That'd be awesome.
I want to see a pope that comes out in a white T-shirt with a big red cross on it, and he's totally yoked, and he's like, you know, he tells the men that you gotta start working out, and I want to see all of the cardinals doing like calisthenics and getting in shape.
Bloody oath.
You know,
but wait,
I've got that picture in my head, man. I can't stop laughing.
That's funny. Wait, Jesse, I want to ask your opinion on something. Do you think the best way to fix gammas today would be to join the military?
No, gammas get weeded. Well, gammas get weeded out. This is the thing. So you find a lot of gammas in recruit training, and I went through recruit training twice because the gap between me getting out the first time and getting back in the second time was too far apart.
Oh,
gammas get weeded out very quickly in basic training because they're not suitable for it. Because one of the aspects of a gamma as well is that they don't really function well when it comes to hierarchy and when it comes to obeying orders, etc., etc. They're very disruptive, so they don't tend to make it through it. The way to fix gammas is not to join the military or anything like that. The way to fix gammas is, like Noah mentioned, you flog them up if that's needed, or you shame, or you bully them into, righto, stop fucking lying and understand you're not fooling anybody. Because that's what happened with me. I was one of the few. I wasn't a full gamma. That's why I got through training, and that's why I got to the game. But I still had, but I still had a few gamma traits, and that's why I was getting the shit kicked out of me, and that got me to fight the rest of it out. But but yeah, if you're a full gamma, you're not even gonna finish Kapuka, and Kapuka Noah is our version of basic training, like it's the recruit training center, and you're not going to even make it a couple of weeks in there. It's not going to happen.
I didn't know that.
This question about alphas don't like following orders either. No, that's not true. Alphas don't like following individuals who are not more alpha than them.
Yeah.
When they find a man who's a sufficient step up above them, they find it relief.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't have to be on point all the time.
Yep.
When the Bravos come to me complaining about stuff, I got somebody else I can send them to. You know, that's why you like having a Sigma around. Is when you need to take a break, you can take over for a couple of days. But what the alphas will not tolerate is anyone giving them orders who is below them.
That's exactly right. And when they find someone who's more competent, they defer. They'll go, right, mate, you're better than me, and they go
when you haven't found that person, you're really up on the top. You still follow logos. You may not realize, but unless you have an evil organization, if you got an evil organization, it's different. But if you have a good organization as the alpha, you're always thinking about what is the true best strategy for my organization. Yep. What is the mission, the right thing we should be doing? That's his logos. We're thinking about that. In fact, that's our job mostly, is to think about that kind of stuff, not minute details of the organization. We want to let the Bravos take care of that and the Deltas. Yep. But we're trying to see, how is this organization going to survive? What do we need to do differently? What's our strategy changes need to be? Then we let the Bravos and the Deltas implement tactics. Yep. So if you're an alpha,
strategy versus tactics, because a lot of people get that mixed up. Strategy is what you want to do. Tactics is how you do it. So strategy is the role of the alpha, and
the other is the execution.
Strategy is who to shoot. Tactics is how to shoot them.
I need to learn both.
Well, you can learn both, and there will be overlap. Everyone has to know a little bit of the strategy to kind of understand what you're doing.
That's what happens in the military. Like, that's one of the reasons that William Wallace, that's one of the reasons he ended up defeated at Falkirk, because he was tactically strong, but he was strategically weak.
But he's also Scottish.
No, he was an excellent tactician. So in a guerrilla war, you can be tactically strong and strategically weak and still do okay. But when it crosses over into a conventional war, which it always does, a guerrilla army will never defeat a conventional army. It ends up going conventional eventually. You need someone strategically strong at the top. And Wallace wasn't that, and that's why he ended up getting defeated.
Well, and this is why you look for those high-level alphas, because the entire group depends, on having your George Washington. You don't have the right leader at the top, you're not going to make it into the final phase, which is where you have victory. And even victory is not the final phase, because what do you do afterwards? The U.S. quickly defeated Saddam Hussein's forces, only to find out that they were stuck in a quagmire that they'd created by basically eliminating the entire country's male hierarchy, which is basically what they did. They broke the male hierarchy there. They had no way of running the country. No, we have to start looking out for each other better. We need to make sure our deltas are getting women married, having kids, getting invested in the hierarchy. We got to make sure they're working. We got to go and look for the gammas that can be recovered. Look for the omegas that can be recovered. I would say for the gammas, it's about developing humility, and for the omegas, it's about developing self-love. They need to, get to the gym, get fit, have something about themselves they like, so that they start to
do 10 push-ups.
Good on you.
They need to see that they can be a productive member of society, and they need to become strong and move up into their delta position, which is where most of them
that's the thing as well, because with the omega, this is the thing as well, because with the omega, they've got the most to gain. They're the bottom of the shit pile. They have the most to gain, but when you would have found the same with omegas, like they really need the help to get out of there. Like unlike the gamma, who can, if when they wake up, they can kind of go, oh shit, I've got to get my stuff together. I've really got to do introspection. I've really got to work on myself, etc. And you can get out. I've got to stop lying for start. When it comes to the omega, that's one thing I've always struggled with the omegas, because it's like, man, you've got the most to gain out of everybody with self-improvement, because you're at the fucking bottom. You're at rock bottom. You're right at the bottom.
They don't know that, or they know that, but they don't want to admit it to themselves. These are the
they don't love themselves.
They hate themselves. They absolutely hate themselves. Yeah.
I wrote a course, How to Reprogram Your Life, because what ends up happening is a lot of these guys, if they had a father who didn't pay, let's say they had no father, or a father who undermined them or didn't pay attention to them. Some guys, if you're a natural alpha or bravo, you'll end up going towards gamma. But if you're a natural delta and you get undermined, you end up going down to being an omega. So you've got this program in your head. It's your dad's voice, or maybe your mom's voice, that says you're a piece of shit and you're not worth anything. Why should you even try? Now, you want to go to the gym when you're fat. That's really embarrassing. You're fat and weak, okay? Or sometimes they're not fat anymore. A lot of them are just like skinny fat. They're skinny, but they have no muscle. It's embarrassing.
That's probably me.
Bit like Hungry Thirsty with Oak.
Yeah, but you have no ego, so you can't deal with that humiliation. You feel so horrible that you just can't go out and deal with that. You literally need an alpha to say, no, you're coming to the gym with me. I'm picking you up at 1 o'clock. We're going to be at the gym at 1:15. Get your ass in there. I expect to see you there, and order them around and tell them you're coming with me.
You got to grab him by the neck and drag him, whereas the gamma can actually get out by themselves.
Yeah. The gamma, you can psychologically convince him that he needs to stop being such a woman, basically.
Oh, with a little bit of that.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to do that. It is true.
Sometimes,
yeah. So, but
Jesse,
the omega needs to be dragged along until he gets his own momentum. And if a lot of guys will be thinking, this is not my responsibility. Then you're not an alpha.
Yep. And just on that, dear, I've got you 6, dear. You know that, mate.
Yeah, I know.
If you don't feel a responsibility to punish and reform gammas and to encourage and help omegas, you are not an alpha.
Yeah.
Because you do not care about your people.
This is super interesting.
Yeah. And which might mean that you might be a sigma. Sigmas sometimes don't care. Some sigmas care too. They just don't want to take the responsibility on.
As a sigma, I can say, I actually do have a lot of sympathy and not sympathy, but empathy for omegas, and I try to help omegas out. Being I was never a full gamma, but like gammas, I just viscerally want to punch the shit out of, and I don't like them at all. And I find it very, very hard to try and help them, and I find it very, very hard to even interact with them. And that's something that I've got to work on myself as a sigma. But you're right with that. Sometimes we as sigmas, we don't really give a shit, and with gammas, I got to be perfectly honest. For the most part, I don't. All I want to do, you develop a gamma dar when you get out of a gamma, and when my gamma dar goes off, I just want to start swinging. I just I can't fucking stand them. And someone can tell me a few things about someone, and I can just go straight up, that's a gamma. I want to beat the shit out of them, and I've never met them.
Well, and this is one of the things that separates the alphas and the sigmas, is that the alphas have a lot of patience.
Okay.
They're essentially the ultimate father archetype. Yep.
That's hilarious. That means that all the people that in my life that thought they were alphas, really not, at least not according to the things you are outlining.
They sound mostly like they were gammas, but the alpha is basically the father. He's the one that says, he sees the children shit testing him. Okay, so we all know what a shit test is. Women do it, children do it, gammas do it. They shit test you, and if you overreact to it, which that can happen. You overreact to it. That's not going to teach them anything. The kid comes to you and shit tests, and you start, okay, why are you doing that? What's going on? Start figuring out. Sometimes they need a sharp yell to like snap them out of the attitude, but then you immediately bring it back down again. So I'm like, oh, to my son when he's getting carried away. The loudness is to snap him out of a bad cycle he's in. But as soon as he's
it's a reset, not just
it's a reset. I'm not sure. It's like 3, 4, or 5 seconds long of loud voice.
Yep.
And then immediately back down to quiet, because now he has to strain to listen, which means he has to concentrate. Down to quiet. And we start, what are you doing? What's going on? What's the problem? And start resolving the actual issue. There's underlying issues of why people are gammas and why people are omegas. And there is no underlying issue why you're a delta. That's a good thing. It's an honorable position. Okay, so I'm not going to help the deltas become bravos and alphas. They shouldn't be. They're happy where they are.
Not just that. Again, it's largely deterministic, as we talked about before. Like those 3 positions, it largely is deterministic anyway. Like it's very, very. I don't know if you could go from delta to alpha. To be honest, you might know a bit more about that than me, Noah. But
I have tried. This is something. This is probably the biggest mindset change I've had in the last 10 years. I used to. Okay, so my dad was an alpha. I was surrounded by like bravos who would be alphas if there wasn't a bigger alpha around all my life, and I just wasn't around deltas. I wasn't around producer class people. I was around all that kind of people. And so then when I got around producer class people, I was like, you could be an alpha too. And they're like, no, I don't want to be. And I would try to push them into that role, and they were unhappy in it.
Well, that's a big one with them as well. They don't really, they're not very aspirational. They're just happy, working their ass off, being competent at what they do, and calling it a day and being proud of their work. They don't really have aspirations to climb.
We're probably we should probably wrap up, guys. It's been over 2 hours. I wanted to say that if we include the D Live audience, we had about 86 viewers altogether.
Cool.
How great is that? Like, if you add it all up, so Jesse Bell, I'm going to make you famous.
Everybody,
thank you very much, darling.
Everybody, what we gonna say? Log off who's viewing, let us know, say hello. It's been great to have so many people watching.
Yeah, you can't tell here because it says around 20. But if you go separately to D Live, it doesn't count it because StreamYard doesn't, I suppose, align it. But it's about 86. So it's pretty good. I'm not good at maths. It might be 90. Sorry, what was that?
No, sorry. I just want to say for my part, dear, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. And Noah, you are one magnificent bastard, and it's really good to have some FaceTime. And Dio, you're one magnificent bitch. I really appreciate it.
One day when I can come to Australia, I'm gonna, when we've defeated the enemy, the evil elites, and lockdown is over, and my beard has reached my knees, I'll come down and visit you guys. And
you're gonna have to do an Australian tour because there are so many Australians that want to get to know you from different parts of the country.
I have a lot of clients from Australia. It's interesting.
By
the way, again, to plug my book, in a couple of weeks, we're going to do another cohort. If you type in noahrevoy.com, you can find my website. It'll redirect you. Just message me there. Say you're interested in the course on agency, and I'll send you the information about how to sign up. If you want to massively change your life. If you're already in a leadership type position and you want to get better at it, or if you're a gamma or an omega and you want to get out of that position, contact me. I'm going to help you get out of there. I'm going to help you get the life you want.
Awesome. And Jesse Bell, is there anything you want to plug?
I was just going to say, no, I'm good, mate. Again, thank you very much for having me on. I was just going to say, I'll definitely, with that, Noah, I will put, I'm counseling a couple of gammas and omegas at the moment, mostly omegas and sorry, yeah, one gamma, not a couple, one. He's pissing me off, to be perfectly honest, but I'll point him in your direction.
Yeah, you might be more alpha than you think if you're so interested in helping other people and leading them into better positions. But that is actually one of the roles of sigmas too in society. If you look back at the ancient Europeans, so the sigma would often be the basically priest, or the pagan priest off to the side, who would be like fixing the members of society, taking you on the shaman journey to heal your trauma, that kind of stuff. And they wouldn't necessarily be the king of the tribe or the leader of the tribe, but they would have that essential role at the top. So it's been great talking with you, Jesse. And I think this is our first time we actually talked
Yeah, man.
On video.
Man. It's great. I've always enjoyed your stuff. I've been enjoying Deer's stuff for nearly a year, actually coming on a year now. But yeah, I've always loved your stuff. Big fan of James. That's where I found you. And I think
I bring people together. I do this even with the people who hate me. I brought them all together. I bring everyone together. Yeah. I'm the great uniter.
And you're lovely as always, Dia. It was nice to see you again. And take care of yourself.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
End broadcast.
Still live.